stood out for you?
Well, I think basically Paul Chan is really facing probably the toughest moment that he has in this role. And I think there's a few focus that we see here. First, obviously, everything is quite challenging. There's a lot of things that Hong Kong cannot control. For example, decelerating Chinese economy and also the changing geopolitical environment globally. But domestically, there will be a strong focus on fiscal consolidation, as described in his term, in terms of restricting expense and also moderately increasing revenue. So I think this is something that will be a direction that we will continue to see probably in the next few years, because Hong Kong fiscal deficit problem is increasingly structural. It's not only a cyclical problem. But having said that, well, the government doesn't really want to give up some of the growth opportunity. So it is really about how to balance and optimize the resources that it has in hand.
In terms of controlling the expenditure, it has been reported by the SCMP a pay freeze for civil servants. Hong Kong has something like 173,000 government staff and makes up between 17 and 22% of government expenditure in the last 5 years. What would you make of this as being one way to cut down on cost?
Well, I would say it is one of the ways, but they cannot really rely on the pay freeze that we see right now, because obviously there could be a pay freeze, but there's also problems or issues in the structure of the remuneration in terms of how to decide the promotion, how to decide the pay rise when there is a promotion, and also all the pensions and benefits. So yes, a pay freeze will be beneficial in terms of at least stabilizing certain expense. But it is really a structural problem in terms of how the government can actually create a new system, a more sustainable one, that will actually create a fewer pressure on the fiscal side. And one way is, of course, using the artificial intelligence, trying to see whether the government can actually function in a more effective way. And there could be some internal transfer opportunities just to fill up some of the very high vacancy rate that we see in the government right now.
Gary Hyde and Veer here joining in from Singapore with a question. So their immediate forecast on growth is between 2 and 3%, as M pointed out, but their long-term average forecast is of 2.9% per annum in real terms from 26 to 29 onwards, at a time when over the long term they're looking at cutting government expenditure by 7%. How realistic is this growth forecast, just shy of 3%?
Well, I just feel both the short-term and long-term forecasts are simply too optimistic. And of course, in the short run, we still see this uncertainty in the global interest rate environment. There are actually still a lot of geopolitical tensions that can actually affect Hong Kong trade flow. And let's not forget the impact on the financial sector. Even though we see some improvement recently, but it's possible to see more restriction from the US or basically other countries. So all of this point to the fact that it's probably quite challenging for Hong Kong to achieve somewhere close to 3% in 2025. My take is Hong Kong will grow at 2% this year. In the long term, again, all of the structural problems that we have just talked about is not going to disappear immediately. Of course, the government can actually use steps to increase the infrastructure spending. It is a way that to boost growth immediately. But it also comes at a cost in terms of what are those projects, and then whether those projects can actually bring long-term economic benefit. So yes, maybe the government can try to gear that towards the 2.9% long-term growth, but I'm not too optimistic about that. It will be quite challenging.